Okay. Let me see. I can do that. No, my
So
mouse
search
is
my name.
the mouse is not working actually in front. Some problem. I don't know, man. What happened to my thing?
So,
Okay.
Hari, do you want me to take the host?
No. I can do it actually. Yeah. Okay. Mouse is gone. Hi everyone. Good evening. This is Hari Seshadri on behalf of Springbok Technologies. Yeah. So Madhu, you are able to see my screen?
Yes, Hari.
Okay, yeah, we'll get started now. Yeah. So, welcome you all. Wishing everyone a happy Engineers Day. Sir Vishweswaraya's birthday, like we call it Engineers Day. So we are very proud from Springbok Technologies to be starting this webinar series in partnership with IEEE BLP and Sevalaya, the NGO. All right, and this is a Campus to Corporate VLSI webinar series. So the objective of this series is to set the expectations for the engineering graduates, what to expect when you join the corporate, right? And also give you some of the basics of the VLSI flow, and so that you understand the basics, and you can prepare accordingly the rest of your when you're in the campus. All right. So we are starting officially today. We had two pre-webinars, but today's official start, and we'll go on until 15th October. I'm sure all of you have the schedules and everything, right? So the organizing team is myself, Hari Seshadri, and we have Madhubala Manjuri is on the stage. She's from the Springbok Technologies. Madhu, can you say hi?
Hello, everyone.
And we have Swarup Gandevar, he's also the organizer. He's not in this meeting, he's busy in another meeting now. And we have Sri Chandra, and he's joining the call. He's part of one of the guests. And we have Mr. Muralidhar from Sevalaya. I think he's also on the call today. So yeah, we'll probably will say hi to him. So this is an introduction to the chief guest today. We have Mr. Srikant Chandrasekharan. He's a senior director, belongs to Standards and Technology Group for the IEEE India. So he has overall 25 plus years of experience, and currently he takes care of the standards and technology and also the focus on the IoT and the foundational technology practice, the IEEE BLP, right? In the past years, he worked on Motorola and Freescale Semiconductors for 18 years. He's managing a global R&D team prior to joining IEEE. Right, so sir, we welcome you to this webinar. Sir, if you are on the stage, can you say hi?
good afternoon, good evening, good morning, everybody. We're very happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Mr. Muralidharan, he's a founder and managing trustee of Sevalaya. Sir, are you on the stage?
Hello, sir.
Yeah, Mr. Muralidharan has 25 years of experience in the software industry on IBM mainframe and also the process and quality groups. And it's a very, very interesting personality. And he founded Sevalaya in 1988. And he quit his like lucrative career. And he gave the job in April 2009 to full-time to run the Sevalaya, right? So he's a technocrat and also an NGO with a very noble heart, right? And I've been working with him for the last 4 months, and it's a very unique person. He's just behind the stage always, and he's sharing the stage with us, and he just goes about his work very silently, right? I mean, if you move this concept to him that we want to do skill development for the rural youth people affected by the COVID. And he said, yeah, they had a lot of ready-made programs available. So we said, we'll raise the money through the charity. We'll make it free for everyone. And whatever the donations, voluntary donations we get, we'll use that to fund the kind of courses, vocational courses for the rural youth to make them skill generated for that, so they can get a employment opportunity in the rural areas. Right. Thank you so much, sir. We are proud of you being a part of the team. Mr. Sriram is the chairman of the Chennai Institute of Technology, one of the prestigious institutions in Tamil Nadu. So he is an entrepreneur as well as an academician, right? And so he has done his diploma and AME in mechanical engineering, and he started his own company. Like he's running a mechanical company, like mechanical industry, running various CNCs and various machines like that. And he also pioneering in the academic thing. So he is last 10 years Chennai Institute of Technology in Chennai. They are the #2 ranked today basically, and he is one of the sponsors and partners of this particular webinar series, and he's also chief guest for this particular webinar. Sir, we are very proud to have you on the stage with us.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, we also thank all our donors, sponsors, and partners. Getting to goals professionally, and AirMeet. Obviously, we have Mohit from the AirMeet team here. So without them, we cannot be talking to each other. And we have Sri Venkateshwara College of Engineering, one of the donor sponsor for this. We have Seer Academy, our partners. They're one of the pioneers in VLSI training industry. So they are our partners, and so probably we'll get them on the stage in one of the webinars. And we have Indian Institute of Information Technology, Design and Manufacturing, Kanchipuram, one of the donor sponsor for this event. And we have Chennai Institute of Technology, Mr. Sriram Parsadi is here. So they are one of the donor sponsor. And we have a mentor card, so next in mentorship program. So we'll share more details about that in the next webinar series. So we are working with them very actively on that. So beyond webinar, how do we engage with the students? The students want to interact with us. It's one of the platform. Students can go to App Store and install the Mentor Card app. So get installed, and we'll give you instructions on how to use that in the next webinar, or we'll send an email. And we have Spica Works, one of our sponsors, and so they are one of the partners. And we have another company called Adapt Chips. Both Spica Works and Adapt Chips are VLSI services company located in Bangalore and other places. So Adapt Chips also is one of the donor and sponsor for this particular event. And we also will sincerely thank our volunteers behind the stage, like people. There are two volunteers from SRC Coimbatore, Mr. Arun, Mr. Srinivas. I really thank both of them from bottom of my heart. And we have Mr. Sirvesh for all the webinar creatives and everything, and Mr. Avinash, who did all the social media cover pages and logos and all. Mr. Pranay, he's a website designer. So they're all working on a voluntary basis without taking any payment. All right, and any amount donate, you can donate any amount voluntary, any amount. There's no compulsion. You're free to do so. Whatever amount you donate, this goes to skill development for the rural youth, which are impacted by the COVID. So we have shared the link, and we'll also post the link in the in the chat window. Madhubala will be posting that. When you donate it, please mention in the occasion. In the form. There's a college called occasion and message. So please mention C2C VLSI, so that it gets accounted to this particular program, right? And it goes to that particular cause. And you could send us an email in our C2C VLSI webinar series at gmail.com. If you with your transaction details, then we'll be able to glad to help you to get receipts and everything. And over to you, Mr. Sriram Parsati, sir.
Good evening. Thank you very much, Mr. Hari, for organizing this webinar. I'm sure this webinar definitely useful for all the engineering students who are pursuing electronics, maybe electrical and electronics and communication or related field. And this will kindle their mind to have their own career in, especially in semiconductor area. And in India, most of the engineering graduates who were studying ECE and other related core subject, but most of them, I can say all of them are beginning their career only in IT industries. It's a big pain, and India neglected electronics, even though 60-70 years before they established the semiconductor complex in India first time. It's a big setback for India. Now, as a country, even our Prime Minister level, they are more focusing on electronics. There are very few companies, but India produced many professionals like Sriram, Satakopan. They are working in various leading semiconductor companies, chip companies, designing, verification, manufacturing, or related companies. With those professionals help, and we can, I think as a country, we can rediscover and we can create such an atmosphere by developing human capital, especially engineering graduates, engineering students. So, sure, this initiative will help, and in particular to my institute, I'm sure this association with you and with your organization really help at least to create awareness among the students that this is amazing opportunities available in this field. We can, and also since you are associating with Sevalaya, it's a very wonderful organization. Mr. Murli, I know, I heard about him. Definitely, this partnership, it's not money making. It's not only it will also help the students understand the importance of serving to the society, giving back to the society. Thank you very much. I don't want to take much time. I'm also like students. I'm also very keen to understand the opportunities during this 12 webinar series. Each and every you have carefully. You are carefully decided the topic and already chosen the speakers. various fields, especially in chip and in semiconductor area. Thank you very much. Thank you for inviting me also. Thank you.
Yeah, over to you, Sriram Satakopan. I'll just unshare.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll just
Thank
unshare.
you.
Yeah, just 1 second.
Let me start.
You can share your presentation. Yeah.
Sure. I hope you can see the presentation.
Yeah, Sriram, we can get started.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Sriram Parsarthi. Namaste to everyone. Very good evening, friends. The esteemed guests of honor, Mr. Sriram Parsarthi, Mr. Shrikant Chandrasekharan, Mr. Muralidharan, the organizing committee members, students, ladies and gentlemen. I'm honored to be presenting at the Campus2Corporate webinar series, and especially so today being Engineers Day. I congratulate Springbok Technologies in association with IEEE BLP and Sevalaya for coming up with this very noble thought for the benefit of students aspiring to get into corporates after their graduation. The topic for discussion today is on trends and opportunities in VLSI. I plan to provide a brief introduction on NXP Semiconductors, my employer, its history, market segments, revenue streams, and overall global presence, followed by a brief on my educational and professional journey in the last 25 years. I will then talk about why VLSI is a very compelling career choice and its future growth prospects globally and especially in India. I will then touch upon the career options within VLSI and its functional domains that are spread across a couple of dozen areas that you may potentially find interest and employ yourself. Each of these larger domains have many subdomains of expertise. It is really mind-boggling to envisage the scope of this entire high-tech industry and its far reach that spans from aerospace to automobiles, laptops to smartphones, smartwatches to hearing aids, televisions to tablets, data center cloud to the edge, electronic appliances like refrigerators to washing machines, Internet of Things to industrial manufacturing, artificial intelligence to machine learning. In the last section of my presentation, I shall talk about what you students really care about and why you are here probably today, the essence of what makes you employable with the corporates, and some tips that I can share with you. I shall also talk about what is expected of the candidates and new college graduates, both academically and behaviorally, that will make you successful in the industry. So without much ado, let's get into the presentation today. So NXP Semiconductors. So this is a company that has its roots from Philips Semiconductors. I'm sure a lot of people have known about Philips Semiconductors, and of course, Motorola and Freescale. So NXP is an amalgamation and that has its roots from Philips, Motorola, and Freescale Semiconductors. And it has a glorious past, and the future is very bright. So NXP Semiconductors, in a nutshell, enables secure connections for a smarter world, advancing solutions that make lives easier, better, and safer. As the world leader in secure connectivity solutions for embedded applications, NXP is driving innovation in the automotive, industrial, IoT, mobile, and communication infrastructure markets. So we are not just making better technologies, but better innovations to improve society, as it is evident from the market segments that is depicted on the right window here. The company itself has a revenue of close to $9 billion US dollars globally, situated in 35 countries, and engineering development in about 23 of them. So you can see the global spread of NXP Semiconductors. It has about 29,000 employees globally, and it's headquartered in Eindhoven, Netherlands. And it has significant presence in India with more than 2,500 engineers located across Noida, Bangalore, Pune, and a few other sites. So clearly a big presence in India. We are also the market leader on automotive processors, powering zillions of smart and autonomous cars. The future of the automotive industry is going to be flooded with the semiconductor induction into the cars and the automobiles, as you will envision in the future transportation of what's to come the next couple of years. Already the semiconductor presence within every car that is manufactured is upwards of $500 to $600, and we anticipate the total silicon content of future cars is going to be upwards of $1,500 for the future in the autonomous cars. A producer of SoCs in MCU and MPU applications across market segments with almost 2,000 plus customers globally. So you can see the presence of NXP into multiple of these areas and industries, and that is going to be driving the future of our markets. Mr. Sriram already touched upon a few items on my professional journey, but I wanted to reiterate a few aspects of my career, from my learning to the experience part of it, the execution part of it, the leading aspects of it, and the transformational aspects of it, as I categorize my educational and professional journey thus far. I did my undergraduation at Annamalai University with a Bachelor in Science or Bachelor in Engineering with a EEE as my major. Graduated in 1996, and I followed up with a master's degree at Arizona State University. And I'd like to share a quick, interesting story here. I went to Arizona State to pursue a PhD degree in power systems. And in fact, when I landed there, my friends and colleagues advised me, hey, VLSI is a big industry. Why don't you try it out? So I immediately changed my statement of purpose and went into the VLSI field after landing at the US way back in '97. And that is a time when VLSI was a very budding industry, and it was a game changer that really happened. And it's something that I even think about today. Going to do something different and thinking that you'll be going to a different area, but landing into something different. And that has really, I didn't look back after that. And really it helped my career growth and path. And after my graduation, I immediately got into a company called Sun Microsystems. It is now bought over by Oracle Corporation, maybe about 15 years back. So at that time, Sun Microsystems was one of the leaders in network computers. And I worked at that company from 1998 to 2004. And I categorized that experience as my learning opportunity into the industry as a new college graduate. And most of the students probably here today would cherish that first experience that they get into during the phase of their career path. So clearly the NCG to a staff engineer level growth propelled me in the 6 years of learning. I was an individual contributor, and Sun Microsystems had a startup culture, the freedom to explore, the freedom to take risks, depth and breadth of learning. And I had 3 patents while I worked on with Sun Microsystems. So really, I still cherish the time that I worked with this company for 6 years, and it gave me the impetus to grow to the next levels. Moving on to Intel, I worked there both in India. So I relocated from the US to India in 2004 and worked for Intel Corporation at Bangalore, starting as a staff engineer there, a technical lead, and did a project at Bangalore. And then I relocated to Santa Clara in the United States again to do another project. So the microprocessor industry was booming at the time, and the process and discipline part of it was really what I learned during Intel. The structured execution, and I was the flow plan lead. The integration CAD introduction into multiple new process and methodologies is what I really learned and contributed back during my phase at Intel. Then there was again an opportunity to get back to India with Qualcomm, and Qualcomm was hardly a 200-member organization way back in 2009, and I joined there as a senior staff engineer. And this time into a foray into post-silicon engineering. All through my first probably 10 years of my career was in pre-silicon. I got a job into post-silicon engineering, and it was an invaluable perspective on a completely new domain. So why I'm stressing this is the need to kind of rotate in your career, and the kind of expertise that you could learn and also provide back on the areas that you've learned from the pre-silicon domain. And I held multiple leadership roles and positions And in fact, after 3 years in post-silicon engineering, I was asked to move to a pre-silicon role. And then I took up multiple roles and responsibilities, growing from a senior staff engineer to a senior director. Within the span of 10 years, I was with Qualcomm. And in 2018, I relocated to Austin, Texas, in anticipation of Qualcomm's acquisition of NXP, which you guys probably know that didn't happen. And ultimately, I got an opportunity to work for NXP Semiconductors at Austin. And I've been with NXP for the last 1+ years as vice president, engineering, leading and transforming the global engineering teams and providing vision and strategy to the organization. So this is a brief on my professional journey. And I'm stressing here the need to kind of role rotate and phase up your career into multiple areas. And clearly the experience gaining, execution, leading, and transformations have been a very big thing in my career and opportunities that I have got to kind of make inroads into what I think matters to me professionally. So let's now quickly dive into why VLSI is a career choice. The semiconductor industry is an aggregate collection of companies engaged in the design and fabrication of semiconductors, as probably all of you know. Close to $500 billion worth of annual sales of semiconductors, and it employs close to 500,000 engineers globally, which is a huge presence. Future of VLSI semicon industry is very bright and projects high growth. And I will be talking about that in the next few slides, and it will be evident to you why I recommend VLSI as a career choice to the engineers who are attending the call today. The future world will be one that is connected, smart, aware, efficient, safe, and secure. And each of these are very critical, needed aspects of what we think is going to be a smart world. And VLSI industry will be the backbone of enabling that smart world. And I call upon the engineering community and the people here who are attending the call to give VLSI as a serious career choice for themselves. I'm sure a lot of you have heard about Moore's Law. And Moore's Law was really proposed by a person by name Gordon Moore, who was a co-founder of Intel Corporation way back in the 70s, right? And what he said is even true today, right? And the theory is the number of transistors on an integrated circuit doubles every 24 months or 2 years. So the Moore's Law describes the empirical regularity that the number of transistors on an integrated circuits doubles approximately every 2 years. And as it's evident from the number of SoCs and microprocessors that have been executed, as you can see in this graph, it is following that empirical formula with such a good regularity that, going from hardly 1,000 transistors way back in the 1970s to about 25 billion transistors in 2020, right? And we see that the technology nodes progression from 10 micron to 6 micron, as you see in the chart on the right bar, going into today, we are at 5 nanometer technology node, and the future is not stopping us from keeping the Moore's Law alive. And clearly we see the 3 nanometer and sub 3 nanometer progressions will continue in one form or the other. So clearly the Moore's Law continues to progress, and the VLSI industry is progressing, keeping in pace with the progress on the technology nodes that are offered by the fabrication plants. Next, let's look at the semiconductor market and the mass applications growth drivers. So let's first look at the first decade of this millennium. It was the age of the laptops, the desktops, the start of the mobile phones, really, and some of the game consoles and the home audio, as you will, and the rise of major companies, behemoths like Intel and Texas Instruments. So that defined the first decade of this millennium. And you see the progression of the semiconductor market growth in terms of the $1 billion. As you see, it was about $150 billion way back in 2001 to in 2020, we are close to about $450 billion. The next wave of growth was in the smartphones and data center market. And with the rise of the behemoths like Samsung, Qualcomm, Nvidia, and Broadcom, and continued the progression and the march on the semiconductor market, propelling new waves and avenues of growth. And this marked the big beginning of the next generation or the next decade of growth, and where I call upon secure edge processing and autonomous and e-cars, 5G communication as the major opportunity and growth drivers in the next decade. So clearly NXP has a big role to play, NXP being the number one in the auto market and supplying silicon for the auto market today. And clearly this wave is going to be redefining how this whole industry is going to be shaping up for the smart cities and everything smart, everything aware, and everything safe and secure, as I had explained earlier. I had told you earlier that where are the growth markets and what is the future going from the 2020 to the 2025. So really the next 5 years, where are the growth markets? And this is data that is available and provided by many data analysts. And major markets like the mobile and PC, clearly the smartphone market is expected to grow at a 6% compounded annual growth rate. The tablet market is about 3%. The PCs is really flat, because people are really going from PCs to handhelds, tablets, and smartphones. So that is a wave of growth on the mobile and the PC markets. The next segment is the continued growth in cloud applications. Everything is going to be on the cloud, and applications are going to be really sourced in the cloud and accessed by the edge devices that we use today. And here we have got the wired and wireless infrastructure market growing at an annual 4% growth of revenue. The servers and data center and storage growing at a very brisk pace at about 12% CAGR. That is the second major market as we envision. The third major market is the emerging connected device market. And here comes the automotive market, which is growing at a very brisk pace of 10% plus on the annual growth. And this is a big market to go achieve the next major growth on the semiconductor industry. And the other major area is industrial electronics, which again is in the high, the double digits of 11% growth, with the Internet of Things propelling so many things on the industrial electronics arena. So clearly you see the opportunities for the semiconductor market is very healthy across the board, and especially in newer emerging markets that is going to be propelling the next wave of growth in this industry. Next, I want to touch upon some of the foundational technologies that will be supporting the new wave of growth opportunities that you saw in the previous slide. Everything has to be aware, everything aware, meaning you need a lot of sensors and ranging devices that is going to be making you aware. For example, the cars are going to have radars, so many radars packed in the front and the back and the side to make sure that there is very good opportunity to sense what's happening on the road, take corrective actions, and save the lives of people. So really, everything aware is a big aspect of what the semiconductor market would be driving towards. And sensing, again, from a lot of sensors that are going to be put in every other space of what you envision as a smart city, right? The next thing is everything smart. So you need machine learning and artificial intelligence enabled processors that is going to be aware and making sure the right and smart decisions are made on what we envision in this field of area that is going to be driving the AI and ML markets. Everything connected. So it's not only important that we have made everything aware and smart, but everything has to be connected through the cloud and the edge. And we talked about the cloud and the edge market in the previous slide. And then with all of this comes the efficiency part. You got to be ultra low power, and you got to have a very good battery management system to make sure that you don't run out of power, right? You're going to have electric cars, you're going to have better efficiency of how you're going to be driving the electric cars and making the battery management better. So clearly efficiency is a big deal, and power management is something that everybody is going to be caring about in the future of this semiconductor industry. And finally, with so many things connected, right, there is always a question of safety and security, and the hackers who could play a havoc in what they could do if they are able to secure into the connections of what you're connected across each of these applications. So seamless system security and safety by design is something that we all need, and that is the need of the day. So these are the foundational technologies that is really going to be propelling the next wave of growth. Next, I'll be talking about the VLSI domains and potential carrier options, right? And it's a huge arena. And if people thought that, hey, they would have mastered about VLSI in a few years, they're absolutely wrong. People have worked for generations together, not probably mastered the adjacent fields of what is available in the VLSI domain. That includes me, right? And I'll be talking about what are the foundational areas of the VLSI domains and how you could probably, make an understanding of or get an understanding of what these fields are about, and probably, get yourself interested into one of them and try your luck with, each of these functions or one of them, right? So really the very beginning starts with an architectural conception or a high-level abstraction of the ASIC or the microprocessor. So everything starts with an architecture. Why this particular processor is needed? What is the differentiation this processor is going to make? What is the end market, end use case? So the architecture really defines the scope and what gets into the SoC or the system on chip. The next area is the RTL. Once the architecture is defined, how are you going to translate that definition into something that is more objective? And the hardware logic coding of the functionality defined by the architect is the RTL area. The next is the test area, which is the design for test. And anything that you going to develop or put into some logic has to be tested thoroughly before it gets to the industry, because or the end customers, right? It's very important that you add these the traceability, the testability, and these are the logics that go and ensure that the functionality on the field, before they are given to the end customer, are working properly. And the design for test is ensuring that your manufactured end product is of high value and high quality. The verification aspect is similar to DFT, but more on the functional side of it, making sure that the logic that you put in is bug-free and the intended operation is achieved through a lot of test cases and use cases that are developed and verified, ensuring that there are no bugs that are or I would say getting into the logic without or the logic designers could be making an issue that has to be corrected upfront and made sure that they are fixed before they are manufactured. So in this area, emulation plays a big role, wherein you're able to hardware model build on the logic for SoC verification and also pre-silicon validation. This is a way in which you could emulate the RTL that you built with some of the FPGA logics that are available today, hardware that is available today, before even you kind of get that piece of silicon manufactured. So this is a big arena today wherein you're going to be making sure that you're first time right when you do the silicon development. So this is another big field on emulation. Really the crux of this whole thing is once you define an RTL, the architecture is defined, the RTL is defined, you put test structures, you verified it, you have emulated it. But at the end of the day, you have to physically translate everything, right, to a database that can be manufactured. So the physical synthesis of the RTL, the logic, the partitioning, hardening of the SoC with standard cells and memories and IPs is all about the physical hardening of the logic and the architecture that you have defined that can get into the fabrication side of it. Besides all of these areas, you've got electronic design automation, computer-aided design, standard cell development, memory development, IP development, all of these as the backbone for really achieving what you would want to do in terms of creation of this SoC. Really, so you can understand so many areas already go into the pre-silicon world to get it to a state where you can send it to the fabrication plant to really make these devices on the wafer. So the next step is fabrication and packaging, where you have heard about all of these major vendors like TSMC, Samsung, even Intel, Global Foundries, and so many of them who do the fabrication, and then later packaging is done elsewhere. And then really the silicon comes out wherein you do the product and test engineering aspects of it to test the validity of what you put in during the pre-silicon phase, really testing it out on multiple platforms, be it on the ATE, which are the automated test equipment, multi-million-dollar equipments, go and test it at the probe level, and then they are the silicon is cut and fabricated and put into packages, and then the post-packaged devices are tested out in the validation domain and in the test benches and boards, and before they're finally qualified, and the lot of areas that go with the firmware and software development as well. So as you can clearly envision, this is a huge area where aspiring students can really look at opportunities. They should understand each of these areas appropriately and then try to fit themselves into one of these areas and get into really understanding what each of these areas and skill expertise provide, and then gain that experience and knowledge. So I'm just providing this view so that students can understand why this is so important to know the different fields and where they could really shape up their career going forward. So really, I'm sure a lot of the students are asking, hey, what makes me employable in the industry? So I'll be honest with you. So, right, bachelor's degree, especially from the tier 2 and 3 institutions, may not qualify you directly for employment with the big product companies, but don't be disheartened really here. So if you have an opportunity to pursue a master's degree in VLSI, electronics, communications on any of these areas, it is recommended. However, if you have the right skills, you can always secure a job after your undergraduation, and strongly recommend some internship, some form of internship to secure a job. And that's why it's very important to get the practicality aspects of what you learn, especially in your 3rd and 4th years, right? And specialization in a specific domain at a finishing school or VLSI training institution will help you really understand and hone your skills. And you can do this parallel while you're doing your 3rd or 4th year. And this is highly recommended. And the corporates really look at what you have done beyond what you do in your schools and colleges, and really what is your ability to learn or your ability to kind of blend into the corporate world. So especially the internship and doing some things at the finishing schools really help provide you with that insight and get the industry with talent pool already pre-trained. So which is a major impetus for them to hire you, right? So also the other aspect that I would like to call upon is if you're not getting employed with the product company directly, don't lose heart, right? Go into services companies. There are a lot of services companies that really master and provide, for the product companies, for the skills that they require. And it's a great opportunity for a lot of students to partner and employ themselves with the services company and learn the trade before you want to even aspire to move into a product company. And a lot of people continue their journey and their professional life with services company, and I really, think that that is a great opportunity in itself with the services companies doing so many things. And by the way, that also helps give them an insight into many companies, just not one company, because the services company typically service so many industry players, and it's a great opportunity for students to get an insight into the ways and means of working across the industry. And finally, I would say diversify your skill and try to rotate domains. And it's clearly what you've seen me doing, right? In my career, rotation of domains is very critical. And I call it that you should try to do it early in your career. And I don't stop you or ask you not to try it later in your career. But it's very important that these can be done at a much faster and easier way in your early part of your career, and find your niche skills, right? And broaden your horizons. Horizons is critical in the time and age, really. And I would call upon the engineers to really look beyond what you're doing, look at adjacent skills and train yourselves into adjacencies. And that is the need of the hour, really. So these are my tips on employability and what is expected from candidates, right? Beyond good academic credentials, which is very important, by the way, clear communication, and you should be very confident, right? Be confident, communicate very clearly, ability to think outside the box. Problem solving is an important area, right? And that's going to differentiate you. Anything that you can do to differentiate yourself is something that I would ask each and every engineer to pursue. Know your basics well, and most of the interview questions will be framed surrounding the basics, right? And the foundational aspects. So clearly I call upon the engineers and the community to kind of know the basics and then think through the question, because they are really from the foundational aspects. Attempt to think through and solve the problem. And of course, you will get points for trying to solve it, right? If not entirely, if you don't know the entire problem, you don't know how the solution, the final solution doesn't matter. What will get you there, and what the interviewers really want to know is whether you are taking the ability to think through and trying to solve the problem. So that in itself is a big points that you'll get from the interviewer in terms of having you hired. Differentiate and convince. As I said, differentiation is a key part, and you'll have to convince the interviewer why you will be a value add to any organization that you'll be working upon. So clearly, you've got to go prepared, and questions will be asked. Why did you choose a certain industry, a certain company, or whatever field, right? So you've got to be ready, and you have to convince the interviewer why he should hire you, really. Ask questions or clarify when in doubt. A lot of people I've interviewed are shy or prefer not to ask any questions. So that is inherently a sign to the interviewer that you are not forthcoming, right? So clearly I would request all the engineers, budding engineers, to ask questions and clarify when you have certain doubts. Clearly, behavioral aspects are very important as much as your educational aspects are. Being a team player is the most important thing. See, industry is not looking for all superstars. And if we just employ all superstars, we're not going to be executing. We need big team players who can really understand what their roles are within the organization and play to that role. And being a team player, right? It's like a cricket match, right? So you guys have to know what your roles and responsibilities are. And going over and beyond and have that emotional quotient of empathy, right? Understanding each other. Those are the aspects that are very critical for any budding engineer and new college graduate coming into the industry. And be realistic of what is expected of you and what you commit. And this is an important aspect, because I always see that people never understand sometimes that saying no at times is a lot better than not committing to something and not delivering. Ask for help. It is not bad asking for help. It is always good. Raise your hands. Don't give surprises. So this is what is the real mantra for successful engineers and new college graduates in the industry. And finally, in summary, I just want to leave you with the thought that there is tremendous growth for the VLSI space in India. Most of the high-tech industry is already in India, and this trend is expected to continue for the next decade and beyond. Obviously, opportunities are tremendous in all aspects of semiconductor business, as I explained to you in the few slides previously. Gear up and equip yourselves technically. It's very important to have a strong foundation. And we need new college graduates to at least spend 5 years with the company, right, to learn, contribute, and grow. Don't be a rolling stone. And by rolling stone, I mean that if you keep changing companies, every other year, right, it's bad for you and for the organizations that they are going to, that are hiring from your institution. And finally, remember that you will be an example or a brand ambassador for your academic institution, as industry will be really looking at, hey, I hired people from this particular institute, and we found very good success with the people that we hired from here for various reasons, from the academic standpoint, the behavioral standpoint, your longevity within the organization. And that is going to be driving the industry to come to your institution for future hiring as well. So you will be a brand ambassador for the for the institutions that you come from. And that is a thought that I want to leave you with. And thank you for giving this opportunity to spend the time with you today. And very happy Engineers Day to all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Sriram. It was a wonderful lecture. Thanks for spending your time. Now, over to the questions. There are a few questions in the. So I encourage everyone to pose the questions in the question sections. So, a question from Devanesh. How can a BTech graduate enter in core companies like NXP Semiconductors? Which skills and subjects should he focus on?
Okay. I think I touched upon a few aspects, right? So clearly, what I would be looking at is the extra part, right, that the student would be willing to spend during the third and final years. What have you done really in these years, formative years of your bachelor's, right? Especially for bachelor's, right? What is your ability or your willingness to do more than your education, right? Your core courses. So I'll be looking at internships, really. Have you made an attempt to do something? And by the way, when I was at Annamalai University, I did 2 internships, one at second year, one at third year, right? And that really gave me a lot of insight. And that is what is really the need of the hour, as I've been saying, that you should be pre-trained. And that is what the industry is really looking at, your willingness to go over and beyond. So my recommendation is pay a lot of attention into areas either on a finishing school where you could go do specific areas of, the areas that I talked about on the VLSI domains, or get into an industry, do a 2 to 3 month internship program, very critical to get yourself employed.
The next question. Yeah, sorry about it. I was doing something else. Okay, what kind of project should we do as a student to get an internship in a VLSI companies?
Well, first things, you have to have a very good resume. You should have a very appealing resume, right? So, and the appealing resumes come by the good projects that you really can think about, right? You've got to think different. You go look at the the web today, and you'll find people doing so many different kinds of projects. I'm not asking you to repeat any of those projects, but you could differentiate from what people have done, and you could bring in essence of what is important into the real world scenarios today. So clearly think about real world problems and how you are coming up with unique solutions for the real world problems. So your projects should really cater to something unique and trying to solve a real world problem. And those are the projects that will really make heads turn, and people really looking at you as a potential candidate for the company.
Okay, question from Venkat. How can we get started and get updated with the VLSI and semiconductors, or any courses that can be done to gear up towards success and to be strong on basics?
Very good question. Thank you. So clearly, VLSI core courses are becoming evident in the current curriculum, right? When I did my bachelor's, more than 2 decades back, clearly there were aspects of VLSI already coming in, but today's curriculum is paying a lot of attention in the VLSI area. And if you find that the core courses that you have in your institution does not really get you to what you're really looking for or what you think would be helpful for you, the finishing schools are some things that you should look at as an option, where you could do in parallel some of the work. There are multiple finishing schools, and I hear that Springbok Technologies is one among them here, that is going to help you cater to what the industry is really requiring and shaping you and honing you in those skills. So I strongly recommend if your institutions are not giving you the core courses that you think are very important, it could be in areas related to RTL design or verification or physical design, any of these areas, right? I strongly recommend getting yourself skilled in these finishing schools that offer a very 6 to 12 week or 15-week programs that can help you really hone up those skills.
Okay, next question. What do you mean by right skills for a BTech graduate to be employable?
Well, so the right skills are, of course, besides your core curriculum that you get in your colleges today, it is very important to really look at aspects what the industry needs. And what I mean by what the industry needs is pre-trained people who can come get the hit the ground running really and help with the organization immediately, right? So those skills, as I said, are in the areas that I explained on either the RTL areas, the verification areas, the tools, really understanding the tools, right, that we use in the industry to kind of get a hang of these tools even before they get into the industries. And those are the skills that are very paramount. And once you know and understand the field that is going to interest you, you should start looking for opportunities to learn those subjects and those areas and develop the skill on the tool that we use in the industry so that you could come and hit the ground running. And probably internships are going to give you that edge in terms of getting you an early understanding of the toolkits and the flows that we use in the industry typically. But clearly, either through internships or through the finishing schools is where you're going to get the hang of what the industry is really looking for. So I strongly recommend these two aspects as foundational for employability within the industry.
Okay, next question from Abhijit of BITS Pilani Hyderabad campus. When is the right time to go for masters? Does having work experience of a year or so will help us in getting a job after the masters?
Very good question again. And again, it's a very individualistic requirement. Some people go to do a master's immediately after doing the bachelor's, depending on their affordability and their ability to get into the a master's program that they want. Some of them really get into the industry, either at the services space or the product companies if they get an opportunity. While they do the with the product company, they kind of think about their options, and that's where people typically leave the industry 2 years after they join, and that's a big deterrent for the industry also to hire people, because they know that, hey, after 2 years some of these people will leave and go and do their masters. So clearly you got to think about what you want to do. And really, masters is for people who really want to specialize and go beyond. And if you are skilled enough, right, clearly bachelor's degree is good enough. But if you already have a good job, you can, some of the companies even offer master's program while they're employed. So you should make use of such opportunities. So clearly it is an individual requirement, but as an industry veteran and a person who's hiring a lot of people, I would always want to hire people who are going to be retained within the company for a longer period of time. So you really have to ensure that you give back at least 3 to 4 years of your time when somebody has hired you, right? And those are the points that I talked about in the slides as well. So the opportunities are presented by the product companies today to pursue advancement in your educational areas. So clearly, you should make use of that if you get that opportunity, or if you want to complete your master's before coming into the industry, that is welcome as well.
The next question, sir, which type of companies are considered as service companies in VLSI industry? Are they something which does testing, only fabrication, etc.?
So services companies are not only people who provide warm bodies to the industry, the product companies. They do a lot of turnkey efforts, and there are big services companies that do a lot of the stuff that even IP development, right, beyond providing services to the product companies. So really, it depends on the companies, on the services space that you join, and what are the scope that they offer in terms of the growth, right? It could just not be from augmenting people into a company. It would be more in terms of doing turnkey development partnership with the product companies, or even IP developments in some cases, right? So the services space is a huge space, and it's just not augmentation of resources to the product companies.
Okay, next question. Sir, I heard as the technology goes 14 nanometer, 7 nanometer, etc., the power management is becoming a big issue because of increasing leakage currents. Will this become a barrier for the growth of industry, considering we are requiring ultra low power devices?
Very good question, and very smart question as well. And that is one of the critical factors that we are worried about and bothered about and taking actions about, right? So clearly, when the challenges increase on the leakage power, certainly our designs on the front end are going to be much, much more low power centric in terms of power management and ensuring that we rein in on the leakage current. And in fact, much lower voltage of operations, right? So clearly, we have a multi-pronged way of kind of controlling the leakage in higher technology nodes like 5 nanometers and beyond, even 7 and 5. These have been very predominant on the leakage power aspects of it. So clearly, there is a lot of design intervention that takes care of the concerns that you highlighted here.
Yeah, if we have an average GPA, but have worked in some projects related to the field, will they compensate for a lower GPA?
Can you repeat that question, Hari?
Yeah, if the candidate has the average GPA, but he has done some relevant projects, right? But will it compensate for the lower GPA, having a project experience?
Well, I don't want to be sending a message that confuses engineers here. All I'm trying to say is it's a combined thing, right? So how you present your GPA is an important aspect, no doubt about it. But clearly, beyond GPA is what, when we talk to candidates, we really see how they are applying what they've learned and the projects that they've done, right, before making a final call and a decision. So communication is a very critical aspect. So hone upon your communication skills, which is very, very super important. How you convey your ideas, your thoughts, it's going to be very pertinent to getting yourself employed. GPA is a big consideration, but it's not everything. So it really, some of the stuff that you are calling out in terms of good projects or making yourself skilled in adjacencies or in finishing schools really help kind of offset some of those deficiencies that you may have in your GPA.
Okay. Can you give me some insights on upcoming opportunities in VLSI, considering the current global shift from China to other countries in terms of trade, etc.?
Okay, so as I said, India's growth is tremendous, and we already see many big product companies across the globe are having a shop in India, and that trend is going to continue. And probably you're at the right time to kind of get into this industry really, and the growth is going to multiply as I see it in this decade and beyond. And some of the government-driven programs are also beneficial and welcoming some of the foreign players into the Indian market. So clearly something that I would look out to. And given these geopolitical conditions, certainly this is a big edge that India has.
What are the transistor options beyond 3 nanometer?
Well, there are many options that the industry is pursuing and the fabrication guys are working on, the physicists are working on. There are nanotechnologies that people are considering, and I'm sure the Moore's law progression is not going to stop just at it, right? And there are 3D gates that are coming into play, right? And these are the newer options and newer technology avenues that are being pursued. It is going to take a couple of years to go from, as the industry transition from planar to FinFET, the next wave is going to be on technologies like gate all around and nanotechnologies and carbon nanotubes that are going to be powering the next wave of growth. So nothing to be worried about that we're going to be stagnant on the progression here.
Yeah, what do you think of RISC-V in the industry, especially after NVIDIA's acquisition of ARM?
I didn't expect that question. So yeah, so I'm sure when there is competition, there's going to be new players coming on the ground, and RISC-V is another avenue that a lot of companies are considering as a secondary and tertiary options with their own developments with ARM cores, as well as some of these new developments like Sci-Fi that are coming on board. So it's all going to be driven by, at the end of the day, the power performance trade-offs and what you could really provide in a meaningful, timely manner that generates the time to revenue, right? So that's the most and key important aspect. And I'm sure there'll be a lot of players in this area that are going to be coming in and mushrooming. And I'm pretty much aware of 4 to 5 startups that are really spending their time and energy in these areas.
Yeah, I think we are running out of time. I think, yes, we have to end. So I would like to have Mr. Murali from Seval to say a few words before you have Madhu to thank them.
Thank you, Hari. Very nice to meet so many stalwarts on this engineering day, and more than 200 young engineers listening to a fantastic lecture on VLSI technology and the past and future of VLSI in India. Now I remember my college days now. It was 36 years ago. I completed my engineering from Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore. We were working with 80, 85 and Z80 and all that those days. I don't think those things are still available anywhere now. The technology has so much changed and improved. We are talking about some age-old, 40 years ago, some chips what we are using for our projects and all that. Now this webinar is really a unique opportunity for people. There are two things. One is the campus to corporate. Now there is a gap from the campus to corporate. What corporate expects and what is taught in the campuses. There is a gap, and there are agencies like this which are trying to bridge that gap, so that the students try to get more knowledge, so that they are employable, right from day one from in the corporates. Similarly, there is a big gap between the haves and have-nots. Right, there is another gap which we are trying to close with this seminar. Especially this current situation, last 6 months of Corona, lockdown, job losses, small companies closing down. Many of the middle level and big companies cutting salaries. People have been put into a lot of trouble. There are a lot of daily wage earners, a lot of migrant laborers who lost their jobs. People cannot go back to the same job. All sorts of problems are there. So through this seminar, we are trying to raise funds for such people. And Sevalaya is already, last 33 years, we have been engaged in supporting orphan children, destitute old people, destitute animals, trying to give skills for youngsters and then get them jobs. So that's the kind of activity what we are doing. Of course, it requires a lot of funds. This seminar is absolutely free for the students. We are only asking them to pay a donation, which will go to Sevalaya for this good cause. Whereby we are trying to, I think as of today, around 2.75 lakhs has been collected as donations through this seminar. Of course, still we have a lot of time. People can still contribute. The Sevalaya links were given the initial stage. We had already displayed it. So people who are attending this seminar, all the students and others, they can all contribute. And we will try to see, the maximum number of Corona affected youth. People who have lost jobs, people who do not have skills. Such people, we try to give them a skill and then get them a job. Instead of giving them fish, we will teach them how to fish. So that is the concept of our community colleges. We have around 12 community colleges across Tamil Nadu and Pondicherry, and we try to get employment for around 1,000 youth every year. That's what we've been doing. So this contribution, what is coming from this webinar, will go into this activity of Sevalaya. So it's definitely really timely. To help the people who have been affected by Corona. So I thank Hari and the entire team who have been working on this, the unique way of fundraising, right, for Sevalaya. So it's a knowledge sharing for students. At the same time, it is fundraising for Sevalaya, so that we try to help the people who are on the other side of the spectrum also. Thank you very much.
Mr. Sri Chandra, quick comment.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the speaker. I think it was an excellent talk and very relevant to the people and their concerns. I spent a lot of time in the VLSI industry, so I do exactly understand the questions that came up. I think this is a great initiative by Springbok in collaboration with Sevalaya, and I wish them all the best, and I particularly wish all the students all their best in their future careers. Thank you.
Okay, Madhu, over to you.
Yeah, we are out of time, so we'll keep it very short. I just really sincerely thank all the students first for taking time to attend the session, and we really hope you're able to get something out of the talk. We are open for questions. We have Telegram groups. We urge you to fill the feedback form. There are also some MCQ questions from the speaker relevant to today's topic. So make sure you fill up the forms. And from Sri Chandra to Sevalaya founders and from all of us, we really thank you for attending the session. We have the details of the upcoming sessions posted. So do visit that and keep attending all the sessions. For the students who attend all the sessions, at the end of all the 10 and fill up the feedback forms, at the end of all the sessions, we are issuing certificates from IEEE and Springbok. So if you're keen on that, you should attend all the sessions. So thanks once again. I think we are good.
Yeah, thank you, Madhu. Yeah, we'll see you on Friday, 7 p.m. for the next webinar. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.